Hello and welcome to Show of Hands Hangout number 64. We've had a couple of issues coming up to this, but I think we're good to go. Um, I will have I will have you introduce yourselves, say who you are on the app, what you'd like us to call you, and the most impressive thing you saw today. Um,
Okay, I'm PartyFree. You can just call me Party, whatever. And most impressive thing I saw today, well, actually, it was ridiculous, but some data. I'm working on progress reports for my kids. I'm a special education teacher, and the growth that one of my kids made compared to his goals was pretty much amazing.
Okay, so I tried to follow that. I got the special ed teacher, and then it went straight to amazing because I tried to read something on my phone. So give me the middle part there again.
Oh, well, I was looking at some data on one of my kids,
Uh-huh.
and he made some amazing growth, especially compared to what his goals were, and so it was pretty much amazing.
Awesome. Well, that beats my answer. I'm gonna seem quite shallow after that. So, um, uh, I'm Ronderman on the app, and the most impressive thing I saw today was when I pulled up to a stoplight and I stopped behind a Ferrari. It was, it's always fun to stop behind something like that. But I was on the exit where we've got a big foreign car dealership, a bunch of Ferraris and Porsches and that type of stuff. So it was a very, very pretty car.
I'm impressed.
So, yeah, so that was impressive. It would have been impressive had I been in the Ferrari, but I wasn't. So we
Yeah.
we got we got a few Lotuses in the neighborhood, but not. We had a Ferrari, but I think he moved. So an old Ferrari, not like a new fancy one. But don't see the Ferraris that much anymore.
we've moved enough times in the last handful of years to where I have no idea of all of the cars that are in the neighborhood. Um, there was a time I could have told you. I'm Firefly 5 on the app. I'm Gaijin in real life, and the most impressive thing I saw today was I have a daughter who's almost 3 years old. We went out to um, we went out to a local place for lunch, and she ordered pub mussels. Um, so just big giant platter of shellfish. Um, I, yeah, shellfish, I guess you would say. And she sat there and made her way through the entire adult serving, um, then moved on and ate a good portion of her brother's food, then moved on and ate a portion of her sister's food, and then afterwards we went to the movies where she devoured like 2/3 of a bag of popcorn.
Oh
Wow.
my gosh.
Yeah.
What
The
what movie did you go see?
Zootopia.
Zootopia with the sloths. Did you enjoy the sloths?
Yes. Yeah, we wanted to try it out, and it was a good day for it, and it was very funny. I,
Yeah, it
I,
was better than your average kid movie. I'll give you that.
it was I was I was pretty surprised with all of the undertones in the movie though.
Mm-hmm.
Like right from the start. Like, oh, let's look at what this movie's actually about, and one of my kids picked up on some of it.
Yeah, but Disney's been doing that for years. I mean, all the kids' movies that we used to watch when we were kids, you go back and watch them again as an adult, it's like, oh, I never caught on to that joke.
Yeah, well, there's a
Um,
whole section of this movie that
I
takes place in a
so
news.
I have to claim ignorance. I didn't watch a lot of Disney movies as a kid.
Well, yeah.
Can you give me an example of that?
um, there are a lot of jokes in The Lion King that seem completely innocent as a kid, but if you watch The Lion King as an adult, you're like, oh, that definitely had some adult references.
Oh, okay, like that. No, no, no. Like this was not about innuendo, but about like what socio-economic and racial relations and what have you. And I was like, this is a lot of stuff for a kids movie to be saying. And I mean, it was good, and it was definitely a good way of presenting it, because there was that sort of there was a sort of it wasn't even like a this is right and this is wrong and what have you, but it was putting issues into a light that a kid would notice it, at least in the context of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was cool. I thought that was actually really, really cool. And yeah, I'm about that. I like when movies actually do something. I'm much more about I don't know. I'm much more about something like that than something like mindless turn off your brain SpongeBob SquarePants.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
There's nothing worse to me than SpongeBob SquarePants.
I will agree to that.
It's
Uh,
something that I don't think has redeeming features. Like, yeah, yeah. I would go so far as, and I'll start this up right away, I guess. I would go so far as to say that SpongeBob SquarePants might be the Donald Trump of cartoons.
Yeah, I would agree.
Doesn't contribute, and if you turn off your brain just long enough, it might get entertaining.
That's right. And you may vote for him for president. So,
Um, I'm an egg says, what are your favorite comfort foods?
Hmm.
pretty much anything I can fit in my mouth that has chocolate in it. Um, comfort. I don't really. I have no stress in my life. I don't have a lot of anxiety, so I don't really need comfort foods. But I guess my go-to meal would be a burger. But just sitting around the house, if there's a bag of M&Ms, they're mine. It's very difficult for me to walk by an open bag of M&Ms and not just have them jump right in my mouth. So I'll say that, I guess.
Okay.
For me, it depends a lot on what I'm needing comfort for. Like if I'm homesick, for whatever place, I've lived in so many different places with so many different types of food that, so if I'm missing Argentina, I'm going to make myself some empanadas. And if I'm missing Nashville, I'm going to go find Popeyes or some type of meat and three place. Uh, Find a place that does fried okra, greens, or make them myself. And then if I'm just like stress eating or whatever, I am a hummingbird, and so I'm going for the sugar, anything sugar.
Okay. I'm I like winter foods a lot. It would be the hardest part. One of the hardest parts about it would be the hardest part about leaving the cold in general is leaving the winter foods. So I um, like a good pot pie or
Hmm.
um, chili. I like chili a lot. Um, Colcannon, does that count as
Cocaine?
winter food?
What?
Oh, there are what like potatoes and cabbage and
Yeah. Again, you don't get to vote on food. I'm sorry.
apparently
Have-
not.
Ugh. Well,
But
speaking of food, I completed my homework assignment.
yes.
Um, so we were on last Thursday, and you told me I had to try something Vietnamese. It was banh mi, or what was
On
it?
me.
That stuff. And so I had to Google Vietnamese restaurants. I had to call 5 of them before I found one that actually served this concoction thing. And I had to drive 30 minutes away just to find that restaurant. And found myself in like little China, but it was little Vietnam, I guess. and had a really fun time exploring. But I did complete my assignment, and I think I've got a picture of, yep, there it is. This is what I ate, just so I can prove that it was there. So I ate that,
Ooh.
and it was not terrible. So, but I'm afraid it had cabbage on it, and like I just said, I don't like cabbage, and also had cucumbers. I'm not a big cucumber fan. But other than that, it wasn't bad. It was an experience. I enjoyed the experience of going to the restaurant. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you for doing it. It's a food we like a lot,
Vietnamese food is so good.
right?
Were you able to find cheerwine?
No.
No.
No, and I looked, and the two places that said that they had it, one of them doesn't exist anymore, and the other one, I don't even know where it is. Like I tried looking, so we have in the part of the state that I'm in, there are a couple of major freeways, and they pretty much lead you to everywhere that you would ever want to go. Um, this is so. Here's one freeway. Here's another. This is like out here somewhere, um, away from the places that you would ever want to go, and, and pretty inaccessible. Um, I tried their website, and their website was taken down, and that to me was,
That's a bad omen.
yeah, it was not encouraging because, even if it was a place that just didn't do much with their website, they would either not have one in the first place or leave up an old one,
Mm-hmm.
or to actively have gone missing, um, is odd to me. So uh, I didn't, and I should have seen if I could um, Amazon a small quantity. Like I don't, want to get a case or anything like that, but um, I might be able to Amazon a bottle or something,
Yeah.
and I'll
Amazon
try that.
Prime, get a drone to deliver you some cheerwine.
Yeah, no, we're not. I think in Michigan, unless you're, no, I don't think there's anywhere in Michigan that would be um, eh, successful enough. Successful is not the right word, but it's kind of close to the right word. That would be a beneficial enough place for drone delivery to work out, um, at least before it becomes a more widespread thing.
Well, I'm looking at Amazon right now, and I could buy you some cheerwine and ship it to you for cheaper than you can get it on Amazon. So uh, it looks like for a 12 pack of
We'll,
cans, it's
we'll
going to
talk about
cost.
cheerwine.
Do what? It looks like it's $30 for a 24 pack. So
And that's pretty steep if you decide you don't like the first one.
exactly, that's a lot. So tell you what, if and when I head back out, because I can't go more than 2 days without going to Walmart, I'll see if I can't find some cheer wine for you. So we'll see if we can help a brother out on that.
Thank you. I looked also on Amazon for cookie butter when you had mentioned that,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like $9 a jar on Amazon. Our local grocery store, it turns out, has it for the price of peanut butter. I mean, sadly, they were you to jars that are, this big.
Mm-hmm.
They're not like the peanut butter, but like very rarely have I seen an in-store price that's less than the online price.
Yeah, well, $30 for cheer wine is way too much for cheer wine. So we'll try to take care of you.
Oh, cool. Thank you. I'll make sure to report back.
Yes, sir.
Uh, the British guy asks if you're more of an early bird or a night owl.
Oh, I'm totally a night owl. Like, I hate mornings, and I'm in the wrong profession to be hating mornings, but yeah, I can stay up, like, during summer break, during winter break, I will stay up until 3, 4, 5 in the morning, and then sleep until noon. That's just my natural body cycle.
Yeah, I used to be able to do that until I had kids. Um, but my kids are early risers, and
Uh,
so I don't think I've slept past 8 o'clock in about 13 years. Just
Yeah,
because that's
my
when they get up, and so I now I feel like I have to get up to make sure that the house is not going to fall down around me.
Yeah, my fiance and I are both people who like to sleep in, so I'm so very afraid that our kids will be early risers and kill us both.
Hmm.
my my kids. I used to think that my kids were early risers until I met people whose kids were early risers, and now I understand that mine aren't. Um, that for the most part they're very reasonable about their wake up times. Like there are days that somebody wakes up at like 6:15, 6:30 or whatever, but they're very much the exception. Most of the time you can count on um, somewhere between 8 and 9:30.
Oh wow.
That's nice. My niece and nephew are 5:30, 6 a.m. regular risers,
That's
and
awful.
they're 2 and 9 months.
That's awful. Times before 6 o'clock don't exist here. That must be a Portland thing.
Yeah, it must be because my alarm's set for 5:30. Not that I actually get out of bed at 5:30, but that's when the first alarm is set for.
Well, your 5:30 is really like 8 o'clock.
Mm,
Um,
not really. Not when my midnight is your 3 a.m.
that's a true story. That's a true story. Now, my wife is out of bed at 5 o'clock, 5 days a week. It's the only time she has to exercise. So she'll go to the gym or put in 5 miles, and then she'll get back about the time I get out of bed, which is around 6:30. But we've had to threaten our children not to get up before 7 on like weekend days. So
Oh,
yeah, 8 o'clock would be nice. It just doesn't. I'm already either at the gym or back from Walmart grocery shopping or something by that time.
we have small teenagers. I mean, they're really 2, 4, and 6, but they're small teenagers. They want to sleep later. They kind of want to stay up a bit later. They come up with really compelling arguments for when you tell them no on things, and sometimes it's hard to refute them. But
Oh, I don't envy you in 5 years.
you know,
What? Well,
no, we'll be good.
the flip side is my kids all go to bed early. So at 8:30, I'm all my kids are in bed.
By what
So
time?
8:30.
Okay.
So that's time for me and the wife. Actually, Jennifer goes to bed at 9 because she's up at 5, and she tries to get her 8 hours a night. But so it used to be that's when we watched our TV, but we don't get that much anymore.
Yeah, my
You're
kids go to sleep
asleep. What's
fairly early, but they're young. Uh, I'm definitely more of a night person on my own, um, and I am up pretty late most nights. But I do have young kids, and so I'm up what I thought was pretty early most mornings, um, which works out fine. I don't know. Every once in a while, there's a recovery period, but for the most part, it works out fine. Let's see. We've got a couple, two more, and then Ron S. wanted important questions. So I've got a couple of those um, that might be good to ask too. Pedwin George says, "What's one place in Europe you want to visit one day, someday?"
Well,
I, go ahead.
I've never been to Europe, so I want to see it all. For me, Prague and the Bohemia area of the Czech Republic is most important for me because that's where part of my family is from. So I would love to see where my great great grandmother's family uh, lived and where her family was from.
I've been over there once. Went to Moscow for 10 days. That was really cool. Um, but I just want the memory of going anywhere. I don't really care. So anywhere in Europe would work for me. Um, I guess I would prefer places where I know the language, but which basically cuts me down to just English-speaking countries. Um, but yeah, I wouldn't mind going to England or Scotland. That'd be fun. Scotland would be a lot of fun. But nothing. There's no bucket list in Europe that I really want to go to.
Sure. I was born in Europe and I spent, the first part of my life there. So the one day thing is kind of a day in the past thing, but I'd be about going back. Um, I uh, England, Belgium. I'm from Belgium, and it's a nice country. Germany's good. I I would be fine just kind of traveling around for a while. Um, I grew up fairly nomadic, and we did a lot of one place to the next, and I would be fine spending, I don't know, a summer or something just going around. I For individual things, no, I don't have too many individual places like absolutely there. So I don't know if that's a lazy answer, but it's my answer.
Where's the one place in America then? Since you've been all over Europe, where's the one place in America?
Uh, I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea at all. I I haven't thought about it very much. I've been to like New York and Boston, and um, I've been kind of around a handful of bigger cities, but I guess I'd like to check out Alaska and Hawaii. Mostly the whole being significantly different from
Hmm.
what I've seen. I don't know. Again, it feels like a lazy answer. Uh, Solus asks, uh, on a scale of 10 to 10, how much do you hate Tom Brady?
Yeah,
Um,
that's pretty strong
20.
there. But I know better than to argue with him on that. So I'm gonna go with whatever his answer is. Because if I were to actually say I like Tom Brady, he'd probably tell me that I was dead to him and he'd pick a fight or something. So uh, yeah, I'm not a big fan.
I'm going to go with 20. Can't stand him.
Fair enough. I don't really follow it. I don't think he's a particularly good person from anything I've seen or read. Um, He's pretty
You
good at
are
football.
aware that he plays football, right?
Yeah,
Okay. Just
yeah. He played for University of Michigan. Like I've seen him play and such, but I don't really follow it. Um, the only things I've seen or read about him don't have him being a particularly good person. Uh, though stats say he's a pretty good quarterback, I don't care. Unless I will go ahead and appease you and say I don't like the guy.
there is only one right answer, I'm sure, in his mind. So
I'm gonna say, but I can't. Yeah, I can't give you the sort of satisfaction in an answer that you're looking for on that one. Uh, he says he does have a real question. If you had to choose one, which would you do better at? Cooking for 100 people or doing an hour-long comedy show in front of 100 people?
but that's easy for me. I've done an hour-long comedy show. So I did a little stint in improv for a while. Uh, I wasn't alone on stage. It was a whose line is it anyway type of program. Had an absolute blast. Sadly, they only let us do it, I think, over a weekend and never invited us back. So even though I had a blast, maybe nobody else did. But um, I would go for the comedy show, unless it's something easy like pancakes. I've done that for about 60, but I'm not one for cooking for 5, much less 100.
As long as I have access to a few crock pots, I'll do the cooking for 100.
Okay.
But, anything else, I like cooking, but at the same time, I hate doing it. It's just like, I'd rather be doing something else. But, yeah, no, I am not a comedy routine type of person.
I think I would have a hard time coming up with an hour-long comedy show. I do fairly well, but it's much more reaction stuff than straight up whatever. Um, I would very gladly cook breakfast for 100 people. I like breakfast foods and I like cooking them, and that works well. When we have two of my nephews come and stay with us from time to time, it was one, and the second one just kind of found his way in, but it works out fine. He so when they're here, plus our three, plus my wife and myself, it's 7, and that works out easily. So
107. That's really not a big difference.
it's not much of a continuation. I think
Just a few more eggs, right?
given adequate griddle space, if I have to use our griddle for 100 people, then that, that would be bad news. That's just not meant for those scales. But
See, we used to have a trailer that had a griddle on the back of it for our family reunions every year because they would make pancake breakfasts for 100 people plus. And so we would store that at our house and everything. So if I had access to that, I could do breakfast easy for 100 people.
Actually, while we've talked, I have cooked for 100 people before. Um, Back in '99, something like that. When you were in like second grade. Um, Hurricane Floyd hit off the coast of North Carolina, and where where I was working at the time, I was working 5 different counties. Well, the floods that came in from Hurricane Floyd basically made our city an island, so I couldn't get to any of my counties. So at my church, that's where the Red Cross set up their feeding station. And so for 2 weeks, I went and I cooked with the Red Cross, and then we put the meals on helicopters to take them to all the people that were stranded because of the floodwaters. So
That's really cool.
yeah, that was like 18 years ago, but I've done it. Of course, I just, they said stir this, and I stirred it, and it became eggs or something. So it's
It
not,
counts.
I wasn't planning. I helped, but that was a cool experience.
I think that's one of the nicest things about breakfast too. That's really cool that you did that, and I would be all about doing something like that. I think one of the coolest things about breakfast foods is that you can cook all of it on a griddle, um, so you don't have to mess with multiple implements, and then the quantities don't matter. You don't have to worry about your ratios at all. You're like, I'm
Hmm.
gonna cook a ton of pancakes. I'm gonna cook just you know 30, 40 pounds of hash browns, and then I'm gonna do a bunch of sausage. And what's the right amount? It's you know however much I make. You grab how much you want.
The entire package of bacon is the right amount, no matter how large the package is.
True. It's true. It's yeah, breakfast is really forgiving, and no matter how much you make, it always turns out to be exactly right.
Hmm.
Uh, so let's see. Um, oh, I was asking also if you were to have irregular hallucinations, would you rather they be visual or auditory?
I asked my kids that question when I saw it this morning or today, and my daughter, who is not normally a wise person, she said you can always close your eyes, but you can't close your ears. So it would be better to have the visual hallucinations than the auditory. But I noticed that you said it as long as safety wasn't a factor, or do you remember how you worded that?
I said, assuming that neither is severe to the point of being dangerous.
Okay, so I took that to mean that I can choose my hallucination, and I figure that my hallucination, I would just see attractive women in bikinis all around me at all the time. That's my specific hallucination, and that is what I choose. I choose to have my hallucination to be attractive women, and that's what I'm going with right there.
So for a different reason than your daughter, you came up with the same answer.
Correct.
I
Correct.
like it.
I'm going with visual as well, and then I'm gonna visualize, palm trees, an ocean, being on a beach. Block out everything else except for the beach that I'm creating in my mind.
So never having had a hallucination, do you know that it's a hallucination eventually? Like in that movie, A Beautiful Mind, for the first two-thirds of the movie, you're dealing with characters that you don't realize are hallucinations. But at the end of the movie, he realizes what's real and what isn't. So, forget the beautiful woman caveat. If I can figure out what's real and what isn't, I don't mind if these three people hang out with me as long as I know that they're figments of my imagination. Um, I think it, but what my daughter said, it would be tough to block out just a bunch of noise all the time.
It took him a long time to figure it out, and I don't know. When I watched A Beautiful Mind the first time, I mean that's yeah. When I watched it the first time, I kept thinking, the little girl runs and the birds don't fly away. Like, why don't they fly away? And and then when they turned out to be hallucinations, that's why that would have been a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I I would think you could usually figure it out, but I was saying irregular hallucinations specifically so that it would be maybe infrequent enough to where you wouldn't be able to have much time to think about it. Um, this came up because we were having a conversation about weird hallucinations, and we had been watching a show where someone hallucinated having or holding a baby, or seeing a baby or hallucinated a baby, either way. And so we were talking about that a little bit, and I thought the sort of thing where maybe you see someone every so often that, and it might not even be the same person, that you just see a person where there's not one, or you just hear a voice where there's not one, something like that. I wasn't necessarily looking for you can choose your hallucination. I think everyone chooses visual then, right?
Yeah, I would think so. Yeah.
Yeah, even if
And
I
if
could
you,
choose, I would still go visual because, yeah, you can kind of block it out. And I think the auditory would make me a little more crazy. I mean, a little more crazy than I already am.
now with the visual, I mean, these people talked movie, so if it's visual, it's also audio, I guess, at that point. But just hearing these bodiless voices, I think would just be terrible.
Yeah, yeah. I went visual for exactly the same reasons. Uh,
It would turn me paranoid really quickly if it were auditory.
yeah, yeah. I think that time right before you go to sleep would be ridiculously scary.
Hmm. Of course, it'd freak me out if I open up my eyes and there's my hallucination standing right there next to me either, as well. I'd probably start wearing pajamas, just for the record. But, you know, don't want my hallucination to get all embarrassed, you know.
Right. Yeah. Um, let's see. Should judges exclude prospective jurors after questioning them and determining that they don't favor the law which the prosecution seeks to enforce?
Should they just summarily dismiss them and not let I mean, that's why the prosecutor has the ability to strike jurors, a certain amount of jurors, at least in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming it's the same everywhere else. Um, I don't know. It kind of, I don't know. Do they have that authority?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know. I have a lot of experience in the civil arena, but not so much the criminal. So um, I guess I'm kind of tainted in that way.
I don't know. I would say that they really shouldn't because the jury is supposed to be a cross section of the public. And, well, I mean, depending on the law, if there are enough people out there who believe that this law shouldn't be enforced, think about marijuana laws, for one. If enough of the population thinks that the law shouldn't be enforced, then there should be someone on the jury who doesn't believe in the law because it is supposed to be jury of your peers and really ideally would be a cross section of the community that the courts were in.
The flip side of it, so I agree with this that you don't have 12 random people as soon as you start putting um, serious speculations on what constitutes random. But um, the flip side of this would be, would a juror who doesn't believe in a certain law be able objectively to objectively decide whether or not a person violated that law? Because overturning the law would be a separate case, right?
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Or challenging the law would be a separate case. So, like you don't have someone go on trial for. I guess what I'm saying is, would such a juror be able to remain objective about whether or not the law was violated?
When normally in the questions that I mean, I don't know how many trials you guys have been to, but the prosecutor or the plaintiff's attorney would say, do you have any preconceived notions about this? And if you say yes, the follow-up question is, would you be able to look at this without those preconceived notions? Would you be able to look at it as a base thing? And if your preconceived notions would taint how you would look at the case, they normally would strike you at that point. But the prosecutor only has a certain amount of strikes that they can do for the jury pool. They can't just strike everyone they don't like.
Well, and there's also an issue of, you can lie.
True.
Yeah. But then again, what's to stop a person on the other side who believes that this, believes so much in this law that they want to see people go down even for the smallest infraction, or that they would look for reasons to find someone guilty of it. Or they have a vendetta against a certain group of people, and the defendant is part of this group of people, and so they're going to find them guilty no matter what. That's just that is something that you're going to, when you're dealing with the public and choosing random people off the street or whatever, it's going to be something that you encounter and have both sides of the coin.
It's the risk that we all run, either as the defendant or the prosecutor.
Mm-hmm. But I'd still rather have our court system than have a court system like in Italy.
Being as I have no idea what that is, I'm going to agree with you.
Well, if you just think about all of the different appeals that they have, and there is no jury, it's all done arbitrarily by one judge. And so if a judge decides that, if a judge is biased against a case, then there is no jury to come back and look at it objectively and have to agree on it.
Yeah, everything I know about the Italian system of government comes from Twilight and the Voltaire. So I'm going to assume that all Italian courts are ruled by 3 500-year-old vampires, and if they don't like you, they'll just eat you. So I prefer our system.
Yeah, no eating by vampires. That would just be bad.
That would be. However, it would speed along the legal process.
This is true. There would be no appeals process. It would just be you're done.
The backlog would not take so long and it would probably, if knowing that if you are found guilty or that the judge just doesn't like you, you would get eaten. I think that would probably be a deterrent to crime.
This is true.
It would definitely do away with frivolous cases too.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that. I mean, if Judge Judy had the ability to just say, I'm going to come eat you because I don't like you. I mean, her ratings would soar, let's be honest. People would watch.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, just my opinion.
I've got one more, and Ron, is the question I was asking you before we started up. But right now it looks like Clinton and Trump will win their prospective parties' nominations.
Oh.
Leading up to this point, these have been the two candidates that most people have dreaded. And this has been more true in my personal experience, that despite that these two seem to be the ones who will get the nomination, I don't think I know anyone who's actually supporting either one of the two.
Mm-hmm.
Which is kind of a funny situation, I guess. Not a comical funny. Is there a ticket, probably some kind of a bipartisan ticket, that you think would have a legitimate chance of winning against Clinton and Trump in a general?
If Elizabeth Warren ran as an independent, she would get pretty much all the Democratic votes, I think.
Quite possibly. Would it be enough?
Yeah, that's the question. I mean, she's definitely more sane than Trump. So she would be more sane and more sane than Trump and more ethical than Clinton.
I don't think she'd get all the Democratic votes.
No?
I think it would still split with Clinton.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Probably right.
Because realistically, and I know that there are big differences and what have you, but realistically, I don't think Elizabeth Warren would do too much better from an election standpoint than Bernie Sanders, other than being 300 or 400 years younger. I don't think it would go too much differently.
Yeah. I mean, here's the other option. Mike Rowe from Dirty Jobs.
Yes.
I mean, he's a celebrity, and so there are enough people out there who, I mean, it would take the reality TV vote from Donald Trump, along with a lot of the Republican vote, because he has a common sense attitude about, like, jobs, work ethic, things like that, that they are like, hey, Republicans, this is us. But I think it would take enough of the Democratic vote because he has a realistic view of social policies.
And with whom?
His show is currently on CNN, so he gets the liberal just because of what network he's on.
Yeah.
And his voice is much more pleasant to listen to than Donald Trump.
Or Hillary Clinton.
I would, given the option of those three, I would vote Mike Rowe any day of the week. He'd at least get my vote.
He'd probably get mine, too. No, he would get mine. Given the choice of those three, I would vote Mike Rowe.
What about you, Ron? Do you have a group? I know we had.
Yeah, earlier I was thinking about a bipartisan, and I was, we decided that they would have to be two moderates. And so my thought was maybe Romney and Joe Lieberman, who still is pretty popular. But I'm so far out of the Democrat side that I don't really know who a moderate Democrat would be. So they're all liberals to me. So I don't know who would go with Romney. I still think Romney would have been a better president than Obama for the past 4 years. But I would vote Romney over Trump.
Yeah.
I was saying I could see a ticket like a Colin Powell and Howard Dean.
Oh, yeah.
Just kind of running the table.
Yeah, I agree with your Colin Powell.
It won't happen. Yeah, he's a very, I don't know. If ever there was a year that they wanted to, or that he wanted to do it and jump in and have a pretty decent shot, I think this would be it.
Mm-hmm.
He would take a lot of black vote from Hillary. That would make life interesting. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Can we have Kasich jump on as his vice president if he runs?
Powell Kasich, that would they may be able to pull that off.
Maybe. I was taking someone from across the aisle, but kind of in the aisle the same way he is. But yeah, it's.
I don't know. Kasich has enough moderate ideas. He supports a lot of the things that the Democrats support.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the primaries are kind of ridiculous in that everybody, like the two parties, they decide that they're going to try and find like the most conservative or the most liberal candidate to make their base happy. And then all of a sudden they've got this general election where they're trying to swing back moderate, but still you've got such polarizing people that they discuss the moderates. I haven't felt like there's been a good candidate for president probably since I've been able to vote. Everybody that I've supported in the primaries has been out by January, February, like March the latest.
Well, on the Republican side, the last two, McCain and Romney, were both moderates. The Republicans wanted to put someone that they thought they could win instead of someone that was really principled in their values.
But even they were kind of on the right side of things instead of being more toward the middle. I think if Republicans were to elect someone for the general election, if they were to nominate someone who was a social moderate and a fiscal conservative, or socially liberal, fiscally conservative, it would be a whole lot more appealing to the moderate voters and even probably to some Democrats than a lot of the candidates that the Republicans have been putting forward thus far.
I mean, you've got a good handful of people who will look at just the letter after someone's name and that's their vote.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as appealing to people who are going to take a moment and think, I don't know. I think it's a time that's kind of primed for someone jumping in. I don't think anyone will do it, but it feels more and more like, and that's maybe the nice part about these elections becoming more and more polarized, is that sooner or later a third person will jump in who will be more appealing than either side, and we'll move away from two candidates and two parties, and it'll be harder and harder for whatever. That's a whole different game.
Well, Colin Powell's getting way up there in age. I mean, he's about to turn 79 years old, so he's about aged out.
Yep, it would be now or never.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How old is Bernie?
73, I think.
Yeah, so I mean, everyone. I mean, you yourself just said that Bernie was like 300 or 400 years older than whoever, and he's still 8 years younger than Colin Powell. Colin Powell in my mind doesn't age.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, he was chairman of the Joint Chiefs back during the Gulf War, the first Gulf War. I mean, and he retired after that, so he's been retired for 30 years just about.
Yeah, that's crazy to think about.
Yeah, he doesn't seem like he's that old. But there you go.
So hopefully Ron S runs. I don't actually know which you prefer, but hopefully those questions are of significant importance or sufficient importance.
Yeah, that's about as serious as we've gotten in a long time. So.
Yeah.
Of course, you ask the serious questions when I'm on.
But you did well, my friend. You did well.
Yes. We were saving our really serious sincere questions for when we got Nemi back on, but I guess this works.
Well, I would like to point out that we don't necessarily agree, but we did not call each other a stupid or a curse or any of those things. We've just proven that it can happen. So
yeah.
And from the sound of it, we're three people who don't necessarily agree politically with each other.
Mm-hmm.
So, even more so. Check it out. We debated, kind of. We discussed in a civil way.
And we've all decided that we need to vote for Colin Powell.
Exactly.
or Mike Rowe. Powell Rowe 2016. There you go.
There we go.
So with that, let's see. Yeah, cool. We made it. We made it an hour. We had a bit of a late start, so a bit of a late finish, but it um, turned out well. I think. I feel good about it. Uh, Thank you both for being on, and we'll be back here next week, hopefully with Rainey. It didn't seem to work out today. Come back anytime,
Awesome.
and that'll be that.
All
All right.
right.
Bye.
Good night.
Night.